How's it going, everybody, and welcome back here to another episode at Maple Monkey Media. Today's episode, though, it's going to be a little bit different. As you see probably behind me, it's not the usual saying. I'm not back at the cabin. Probably won't get there until maybe next weekend, I'm thinking, just because the weather, I was going to go down this weekend, but the weather has just been too bad. The rain has set in for a little bit, but that's okay. I want to change up a couple things here on the channel as well. I've always wanted to kind of change this channel into maybe like what a TV show would be, so have certain episodes on certain days of the week. I'm obviously going to continue along with my off-grid videos and my off-grid build and the property and all of that good stuff. I have some awesome future builds coming up with that and some great projects in mind that are going to be going to the back of the property as well. I've always wanted to incorporate storytelling here on the channel. I watch another YouTuber, Mr. Ballin, and he is just a phenomenal storyteller. So I've wanted to incorporate that on my channel now ever since watching him. So like I was saying before, I'd like to incorporate an off-grid video, let's say maybe Monday, and then maybe a storytelling video maybe at the end of the week on a Friday. The schedule is going to have to probably be tweaked a bit in the upcoming weeks, but there's going to be some new video ideas coming up. I have another video that I'm going to be shooting around here as well. The next video after this is going to be planting and harvesting some winter microgreens. Super easy and affordable way to get an extra little pop and spice in your salads and your foods over the winter months. And even if you want to, you could turn it into a business. We're slowly creeping up to 1,000. Actually, over the last little bit, it's been a little bit fast. Ever since I posted my last video, my cabin build video, it's just been skyrocketing. I think we're sitting up at around almost 825 subscribers right now. So what I've decided, once we hit that 1,000 mark, right now I'm getting ready, getting some merchandise on the go, and I'm going to be doing some woodworking for a giveaway, 1,000 subscriber giveaway. Super excited to get this on the go. I just wanted to do it to show my subscribers, you know, I'm really appreciative of all the support and continued love that y'all are giving me over the times. And so like I say, I'm just getting some stuff on the go right now. And that'll be coming up when we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. It'll be stuff like this t-shirt here, Maple Monkey t-shirt. I have some other designs that I'm going to get on the go as well. So exciting times. You know, like, share, comment, make sure you're following. If you want to make sure that you know when the contest and the draw and all that's happening, just be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to help it out, then hit that like button and maybe share it along as well. If you want to follow me on any of my other socials, I'm at Maple Monkey Media on my Instagram and my Facebook page. So we're going to get into this, and this story is a survival story. So I think it incorporates well with the off-grid lifestyle. It's about 5 guys who were stranded at sea for over 9 months. So grab a bowl of popcorn and let's get on into this exciting, awesome survival story of 9 guys who got stranded at sea for over 9 months. This story starts off on the Pacific coast of Mexico in a small little fishing village called San Blas. All 5 of these fishermen were from the small little fishing village of San Blas, so they were very familiar with the waters that they usually fished. It was around late October, early November that the men got together and they decided that they're going to go out for just a regular routine shark fishing trip. Now it has to be noted that there's thousands of fishermen in this coastal village of San Blas. Like I said before, it's a fisherman's village and there's thousands of fishermen in there, and most of those fishermen, they only go off of rudimentary gear. They only have the bare essentials and they hardly ever follow the navigational guidelines or rules as well. Now these things that every fisherman should have are things like radios, or compass, GPS, even cell phones. But for the most part, most of the fishermen and people that go to sea in the small boats that they do in San Blas, they don't go out with that stuff. They just go and fish for what they can get, and hopefully they know the waters well enough and they can return. Now these 5 men that were going out fishing that morning, they were really no exception either. They were going out regardless of anything. They didn't think that they needed a cell phone, they didn't bring a radio, they didn't have a GPS, they didn't have a radar, they didn't have any of that stuff. They were just going out with pretty much, you know, the clothes that they had on their back. Now these 5 men, they were going out on a boat that was approximately 25 feet or so. Most boats, they have a little hut or a cabin to protect you from the elements. But this boat, it didn't have any of that. So it was a completely open 25-foot boat. All 5 men were on it, and they were pretty much exposed to the elements, you know, all the time. At least with some boats, they have a small little wheelhouse that with some protection, but this boat didn't even have that. It was just just completely bare bones that this boat was. Now, shortly out into their journey, one of the engines started having problems, started spittering and sputtering, and eventually it just completely stopped working. So that's one of the two engines that just completely stopped working on them. Really, this wouldn't be such a big problem if any of them had decided to bring out any kind of navigational gear. But like I had mentioned earlier, none of them brought out any radios. They didn't bring out any cell phones, no communication, no GPS, no nothing. So they pretty much, even though they were in somewhat familiar waters, they didn't really know where they were, essentially. For the next little bit, on their one engine that they had left on the boat, they just kind of drove around and trying to find landmarks and spots where they could actually identify where they were in the ocean. But eventually they didn't see anything, they couldn't find out where they were, and their second engine ended up running out of gas as well. Now, both engines are down. These 5 fishermen, they're floating dead in the water. They're in a 25-foot boat with no cabin, no protection from the elements, and they didn't bring any food, they didn't bring any water, they don't have any communications, they have absolutely nothing, like I said. They just have the clothes that are on their back pretty much for protection. The thing is, you need propulsion on a boat to be able to turn, to go with the waves, to be able to fight against the currents and the winds. And since these guys didn't have any of that, they were at the will and the might of the ocean. So they kept getting pulled further and further and further out by the tide pulling them out and the wind pulling them out as well. They just kept getting drawn further and further away from land where they started from. Time has passed, and what turned out to start as days has evolved into weeks. And now the guys have been out there a couple months. Obviously, in these couple months, the fellas would have had to have figured out a way to get food and water. So what they did was they decided to search the boat for anything that they could use. Any kind of piping or hosing, cables, anything, metal pieces, wooden pieces, everything and anything that they could use. So they found enough pieces and they managed to MacGyver a fishing rod together out of some cables and old pieces of junk pretty much that were around the boat for the last little bit. So at least they have a fishing rod now and a way to get a little bit of fish that they can. So that's exactly what they did over the first little bit and continuously throughout their trip. Is the guys survived off of catching sharks and fish and seabirds. They also stayed hydrated by catching rainwater, and they, as gross as it sounds, they were drinking the blood of the birds and the different things that they were catching to try and stay hydrated and to get as many nutrients, as minerals as they can to try and keep themselves alive so they could get found. There was one guy out of the 5 of the people that were on the boat that at least was a little bit more prepared than the rest of them. Prior to this journey, he had taken a sea survival course, so he had a little bit more knowledge about things that you need to do in a survival situation, and he had also brought upon with him his Bible. This man, he was nicknamed the Cat because as seabirds slept on their boat when they were tired, he would slowly creep up to them and jump on them and pounce on them like a cat. And he would have such success with this that the other guys that were on the boat, they started nicknaming him the Cat. Now, like I say, these guys have been out here for months and months now. So they left in late October, early November, and we're coming around to in and around the January time. And the first guy ended up perishing. And about a month later, in February, the second guy ended up perishing. And the main reason that these two people perished is that they were malnourished and they pretty much starved because from what the other survivors had said, they really refused to eat when they caught either the fish or the sharks or the live birds. They would refuse to eat them or drink their blood or drink anything like that to try and stay alive, and unfortunately they just succumbed to malnourishment over the months that they were out there. So now out of the 5 of them, only 3 of them are left. So these 3 guys, they always kept hope up. One of them, like I had mentioned earlier, had his Bible, so they were always praying for hope that somebody would see them. And you have to kind of imagine this, that it's only a 25-foot boat in this vast, huge, endless amount of sea. So it's kind of like finding a needle in a haystack that, that they're going to be looking for. Even if anybody happens to see them, it's going to be highly unlikely that they do. But these guys kept a positive atmosphere and positive hope that somebody out there is going to find them. So what they did is they would sleep in shifts. One of them would stay awake and keep watch out for boats or planes or anything that was on the horizon, while the other 2 slept, and they just vice versa the roles. It had been over 9 months that the guys were out to sea so far. And they have just, like I said before, they've just been surviving on just the bare essentials, on the birds that they could catch, the fish that they could catch, what little bit of rainwater they could harvest, and the blood, essentially, that they were getting from these seabirds to stay alive as well. So one day there was a Japanese fishing trawler that was going by, and they kind of looked over there in the distance, and they noticed that there was a small boat that had been floating there. So they ended up kind of trolling over, pulling up right next to it, and it turned out to be that it was the boat of the fishermen, the last 3 fishermen that were stranded at sea. And at first they didn't see any movement, and one of them jumped on the boat there, and it turns out that just all 3 of them just ended up falling asleep at the time that they ended up being found. And so they picked them up and brought them aboard this Japanese fishing boats, and they remembered that all of them, they just started breaking down. They just started crying heavily, being so thankful that they finally were found. After being found 9 months and 9 days at sea, their ordeal was finally over. So from the time of their journey just off the coast of Mexico in San Blas, they had floated and traveled around 8,000 kilometers. They had crossed the North Pacific Ocean, and they were somewhere far off the Japanese coast. So could you imagine 9 months just floating across the ocean, 8,000 kilometers away from where you once began? Crazy. After these guys were found, they were obviously brought back, thankful that they were alive and everything, and they all went back to their village in Mexico. One of the guys, he went back to his wife and his 2 kids, where he wanted to eat a bunch of meat tacos. And he had actually said that he's going to go back out fishing again because it's the only means and the only way that he can provide for his family. So even after this crazy ordeal, he's still going to go back out on a boat and go fishing and provide for his family, even though he nearly lost his life doing potentially something that he likes doing or something that he needs to do to continue putting food on the table. Well, that was the video for today. Crazy story of survival. When I first read it, I definitely thought that this is something that I wanted to share, and it kind of puts you in the framework of, you know, if you're trying to go off grid as well. It's not quite a life or death situation when you're going off grid, but it potentially sometimes could turn that way. So I just think of it as the challenge. It's a challenge to go off grid, from all the things that you have to start doing to continue to learn how to do. And those guys, they overcame that challenge by making a fishing rod pretty much out of nothing to stay alive. They ended up fishing for their food. They ended up catching birds, drinking their blood, as gross as that sounds, but they did what it needed to get done to be able to stay alive and see their family after that crazy ordeal. So, I mean, I think some of the traits are definitely interchangeable for people that are looking for an off-grid life and looking for maybe to start a homestead as well. Well, that is the video for today. I'm going to get better at this storytelling format, I swear. It is my first time doing it. I watch Mr. Ballin. You should go check him out. He makes it look super easy. It took a couple times to try and get everything good to go. So I'm sorry if it seems a little bit cutty, and if you see me looking down at my notes and everything. We're going to get better with it. And like I say, there's going to be some new content coming to the channel here in the next little bit. If you like what you've seen, please support the channel. Hit that subscribe button down below. And I muchly appreciate y'all's continued support. And this is Adam here at Maple Monkey Media, signing off from the very first video of storytelling. I hope y'all liked it. Keep those sticks on the ice. There is no failure if you just keep going. And, you know, just be positive in these crazy times. Be happy, be positive. Pat yourself on the back. Give yourself, much love. Shell out much love. All right, y'all. This is me signing off. Cheers, y'all.